So you've seen that high ticket closing is the single biggest opportunity of 2026. It is the best way that you can make 5 figures online. You can actually leave your job. You can actually have purpose, have freedom. And that's because online businesses are exploding. Coaches, courses, agencies, they are all rapidly scaling, but every one of these businesses need a skilled closer. They need someone who can take their leads and turn them into clients. That's why they're going to pay 10% on deals worth 5 to 25K. But there is a big part that no one is talking about, and that is that this industry is getting flooded with people because they see what a great opportunity it is. But the thing is that competition, it's high in quantity, but it is low in quality. And that is what makes this video so important. I'm going to walk you through the exact step-by-step system that I build my students so they can actually transition into remote sales and land their first role. It's the reason that we actually guarantee placement, because this system works. I've been in this space for the last 6 years. I have done this myself. I've scaled up to over 20K months as a closer, and I've helped hundreds of people to transition into remote sales. But we all have to start at the same place, and that is understanding how big this opportunity actually is. That in 2016, this industry, this online education market was worth around 116 billion. But by 2024, it had reached 400 billion. And by 2030, it is set to surpass over 900 billion. So if you track that growth, it isn't steadily going up, it's actually growing exponentially. And that's why 2026 is a pivotal year for you to get into it. Because when 2030 rolls around, who do you think the serious money is going to go to? The guys who are just getting into it, or the ones who have been in it for a few years? It's like buying a Bitcoin back in 2014. The opportunity to get in and start making some serious money is never going to be as important as it is in 26. But it's also a great opportunity because the model itself is simple. We work for online businesses, coaches, consultants, agencies, and they all sell a high value offer. But what they don't do is take their own sales calls. So they're going to be looking for trained professionals who can take their calls and convert them into more clients. And that is where you come in. But another thing to understand is that we're not selling products. You're not talking about boring life insurance all day. You sell transformation. You help someone to actually completely change their life. It's going to be in either health, wealth, or relationships. So you help someone to get in shape or fix their mindset, to make more money, or to fix their relationships. I've even got one of my guys on an offer where they build men an ad campaign on Instagram to date hot women. And it sounds strange, but people are willing to pay 5K plus for this stuff. Think about it this way. If you've got 2 of these things at a high level, but you're missing one, you're going to be miserable. If you've got a 6-pack, but you have a 6-figure income, you've got no one to share it with, you're going to be miserable. Or if you've got a family and you're in great shape and you've got no money, again, it's going to make you miserable. That's why people are going to pay between 5 and 25K to fix these problems. And when we get 10% commission on everything we sell, that's why this gives us a great opportunity. But again, only if you follow the right system. So let's break this down. Now, we're going to start with step 1, which is positioning. Now, the reason that this is so important is the reason that most people don't get placed in remote sales, because they come across like some amateur. They apply a minimum wage effort to a 6-figure opportunity. When a coach sees your message and they look at your Instagram and it's just got photos of you in Ibiza or looking out a window like you're in some music video, they're not going to take you seriously. When these business owners look at your profiles or your CV, or when they interact with you and they don't like what they see in the first 2 seconds, that is why you're never going to get a reply. They're going to see you and think, do I trust this person with 100K worth of leads this month? And usually the answer is no. So the first thing you have to do if you actually want to become a remote closer is you need to know how to stand out and how to look professional. So look, we're actually going to take a look at one of my students. If you look at this page, what do you see? You see someone you want as the face of your business. You see someone who's going to be able to take your calls, who's going to be professional, and you're going to be able to trust to do that. If we look here in the bio, it's optimized. It gives you some authority, some value. It says clearly what you do and who you help. If you look at the content, it matches what you say in your bio. Thing is, a coach is going to get on a profile like this and they're going to make a snap judgment. What they're not going to do is they're not going to comb through every single post. They're not going to read every single caption, but they just need to feel like you're someone that they can trust. And that's going to happen in the first 2 seconds. So you need to have a page optimized like this. And also writing a resume or a CV that's geared to this space. Everything on there needs to point towards that you're a professional high ticket closer who has the ability to close at a high percentage. So if you've got loads of jobs that are completely irrelevant, like you're an accountant or you're a customer service, then don't put them on there. But look, this is why I have so many of my students who have no sales experience. They get placed over people with experience because again, they set the right impression. That is the power of positioning. Now on to step 2, which is skill set. What we need to understand is that a high income skill, you need to be highly skilled in it to earn a high level of income. This is not employment. You're judged on your value, not your time. No one's going to pay you per hour. They're going to pay you based on the amount of deals you can actually close. That is why I was earning 20K a month while I was still a sales coach on the side and I was running a marketing agency on the side. I would only take an average of about 4 calls a day because when I was closing at 60 to 75%, I didn't have to take that many calls to earn good money. But that wasn't something that just happened overnight. Something I severely underestimated coming into this space was how far my corporate sales experience could actually take me. I was in corporate for about 6 years before I was a closer, and I was really blown away at how different this was to anything I'd done before. This isn't about being overly professional or working hard or contacting a million people until someone buys from you. In this space, you're not taking 100 sales calls, you're only taking 4 to 6 a day. You haven't got 4 to 6 weeks to close someone, you've got 45 minutes. So all the things you're used to doing in weeks and months has to get condensed down into under an hour. You have to build the right amount of value. You have to get them to really trust you. You have to show that you can actually solve their problems. You have to have emotional intelligence. You need to be able to lead these calls. You have to understand the psychology behind sales. But mainly, you've got to shift from having an employee mindset to an entrepreneurial mindset. No one's going to pay you to train. No one's going to sit and review your calls and hope that you get better. You have to turn up already skilled. That's the whole point of hiring you as a remote closer and not just hiring a salesperson. And the other thing to understand is that we don't sell products. Like I said earlier, we sell transformation. We're here to actually change someone's entire life. So if you can't understand what is needed to make that change, then you can pitch someone all day long, but they're never going to buy from you. It's not about the unique selling points, it's about the unique problem solvers. How does what you do solve someone's problems? How does it get them to the desired result that they actually want? How can you challenge their limiting beliefs that's stopping them to make that change already? So if you really want to have success in this space, what you need to understand is that you need to go above and beyond in your skill set. You need to find someone who knows how to close high ticket deals. When you get on a high ticket offer, you've got probably about 10 calls to prove that you're good enough. If you take 10 calls and close no people, you will be kicked off that offer faster than a knife fight in a phone box. Because these offers are paying $2, $3, $4, $500 every time they book in a call. So if you're not closing them, it's costing them money. But if you're closing 30% of them, which you should be, then it's still profitable for that business to run ads, get people on calls or do their social media, whatever it is, and have you in as a closer. So again, make sure you are prepared in your skill set before you even try to look for a role. Join communities, do role plays with people, buy training courses, do whatever you need to. At the end of the day, like, you need to back yourself. You need to invest into yourself. I certainly have. I've spent tens of thousands into my own education. That's why I sit here today and not still stuck in some shitty job. But for the love of God, when it comes down to sales trainers, make sure that you pick one who's actually done it themselves, that they've got to the level that you want and then have helped other people to get there. Because there's a lot of people in this space and there's so many good trainers, but there's also a lot that aren't very good. So do your due diligence and make sure that you find someone you resonate, you like their style of sales, and they've actually got to the position you want. So that brings us on to number 3, which is finding the right offers. So there's 3 main ways that you can go out there and find the right offer. Now the first is actually finding them yourself through social media. And to do this, you need to use a tool called ToolsU. Now, if you go onto this site, you'll see that they have a tool called the Profile Finder. Now, if you go into this, it will allow you to search for certain people on social media with certain following. So when you're doing this, you really want to pick around 3,000 at the low end and 500,000 at the top end. So anyone under 3,000, they probably haven't got enough calls coming in to warrant a closer. But anyone above 500,000, they're going to be absolutely flooded with people trying to be their closers. So it's probably just not worth it. So find 3,000 to 500,000 and pick an industry you're interested in. So let's say fitness, a massive industry in this space. Just search for fitness coaches in between these amounts of followers. And look here, you will see the amount of people that come up. So here is just a list of people with a high following in the right space who are almost certain to have a high ticket offer that you can close for. Now, the real trick with this method, though, is to make sure that you are personalizing your outreach. You need to send them a message from a profile that's optimized, first of all, but you need to send them a message that is not just some copy and paste. If I had £1 for every time someone messaged me, yo, bro, you looking for a closer, then I wouldn't have to do this. It is the most irritating thing that comes up in my DMs. If you think that I'm going to give you a 6-figure opportunity from you going, yo, what's up, bro? You've got another thing coming. So personalize your outreach, make that person feel you've actually taken some time to go on their profile. What I like to do is I like to dig through and look for a post about a month and a half old and then just mention it in my outreach so it shows I've actually gone through their content. Include why you would genuinely be the best closer for them. Include your training or your skill set or your experience. Try and solve some of their problems as well. This is how you're going to stand out with your outreach. People with high ticket offers have the problem of lazy closers who have low availability, who have a low close rate, so make sure you're mentioning these things in your outreach. Now, the second method is the lowest hanging fruit, but it doesn't mean it's the best way to get placed. And these are the Facebook groups. There are tons of Facebook groups out there that post opportunities from remote closing or remote setting, but there are a lot of scams on these Facebook groups. So be very, very wary. Things to really look out for in these Facebook groups, my red flags. If someone's offering over 20% commission, this is a red flag for me. To be fair, over 15% is a red flag. Make sure you're looking at who's posting these opportunities. If that profile has just recently been created or has a very AI generated image in it or has a low amount of friends, anyone with a genuine opportunity, you'll be able to see in an instant that they belong to a genuine offer. So do your due diligence when you're going through these Facebook groups. And then the third and the best method to find the right offers is through a network. You need to try and find communities or groups of people who are actively closing. You need to connect with people in the space, find sales managers, find mentors like myself, and then you need to get into their network, because this is the main way that I have found good closers when I consult for businesses growing sales teams. And it's also how I get majority of my students placed, through my internal network. So go out there and try and find a better network, and that is half the battle done already. So, which brings us on to our last step, which is step 4, landing your first role in remote sales. And really, there's just one thing above all. So this is where majority of people mess up. And it's such a shame because so much hard work goes into everything before. So when they get to the last hurdle and mess it up, it's a sad thing to see. But the reason that majority of people don't get placed, even when they land an interview with the right offer, is because they do zero preparation for their interviews. Now, yes, this is not a 9-to-5 job interview, but it is still that interview, that meeting. It's like securing a client for your sales consulting business. If you don't turn up prepared, if you don't turn up blowing this person away, then they're not going to give you the opportunity to close their deals. It's as simple as that. I actually have a rule now, and you'd be shocked at the amount of people I've interviewed. I've interviewed thousands of people in this space. So I now have this rule. So I now ask someone, what do you know about the offer or the company? And if they turn around and say, well, not that much, I immediately end the call. If you come unprepared, not knowing everything you can do about the industry they're in, the company, the person who runs that company, it shows that you are not willing to put any effort and you're just looking for any opportunity as long as it's convenient to you. And those people who do that are always the worst closers. And I always tell my clients I work with to avoid them like they're the plague. They're the reason that this industry is so hard to get into, because they're the ones who flood the market, put no effort into it, and just murk the waters. Again, you've got to remember that this is a 6-figure opportunity, so it needs to be treated with the respect of a 6-figure opportunity. Stop putting in a minimum wage effort. So when I say come prepared, like I said, do your research. Make sure you know everything about the industry, even if you've never touched it before. Make sure you understand everything about the offer. Like I said with the outreach messages, go through some old content to just mention specific things. It just shows you're willing to go that extra mile and put the effort in. This is why I've placed so many students with little to no experience over people with years of experience, because they're just lazy. They don't come in willing to put any extra work in. They just want everything given to them. And again, those types of closers are the worst people to work with. But look, the thing to understand is that getting placed isn't the end. It is actually the beginning. So now you're actually in the game. That is where the real work starts. You have to keep sharpening your skill set. You have to stay coachable. Every closer I know who's gone on to do 20, 30, 40, 50K plus, they actually spend more time sales training than people stuck at 3K. Remote sales changed my entire life. I tried every model under the sun before this, and this was the only thing that actually gave me freedom. But that only happened because I took it seriously. So go out there, follow this system, and I can absolutely assure you that you will get into remote sales in 2026. But if you do want help, then you can apply to work with me one-on-one in my mentorship program. The link is below in the description. But either way, I hope you've taken a lot from this video. And if you have any further questions, then just hit me up on my Instagram at Mr. Connor Williams. I'll see you in the next one.